If you've ever criticized or disliked an MCU movie starring a female character, you are a misogynist. No ifs, ands, buts, or coconuts, sir. At least that's what David Jaffe, who I believe was the director of God of War, a video game. I'm not much of a gamer. This David Jaffe fella decided to make a jackass out of himself on Twitter, so we're going to cover it here. Disparaging the fans left and right, just absolutely stupid stuff. All in response to this video clip from Brie Larson.
Hey, Captain Marvel for?
I don't know. Does anyone want me to do it again?
I'm sure many of you came away with the same impression that I did, was like, wow, she comes off as really strange, kind of condescending. She's got crazy eyes all over the place. What is wrong with Brie Larson? And then saying, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be Captain Marvel. Like, you were just at the fucking D23 thing. You're playing Captain Marvel in the Marvels. Not surprisingly, people had something to say about how off-putting and unlikable Brie Larson is. And that is what set Mr. Jaffe off. The original post, it feels like Brie Larson always goes out of her way to be as unlikable as possible. The man just asked a question. Don't turn it into yet another passive-aggressive session on how you let the internet live rent-free in your head. Not the nicest thing in the world to say, but pretty accurate considering the clip that we just showed. This is what old David Scott Jaffe, uninvited, had to say, just butting in on other people's business, and decides that he needs to disparage everybody. They can say Captain Marvel is a bad movie, but here's the truth. They don't like Brie because she doesn't give an F about them. She doesn't pine for their love affection. She doesn't need their adulation. She won't kiss their nasty ring of underdeveloped geek men, so they hate her for it. Is this the dumbest take of 2022? Probably not, but it's definitely in the top 5. Like, who's like going out there going, man, I would really like Captain Marvel if Brie Larson would just, kiss the ring a little bit. Let me know that I was special to her. I think most people went into Captain Marvel hoping that, one, it was a good movie, and two, that it was important to Endgame. And it really wasn't either. I've seen the movie. Was it the worst thing the MCU has put out? Absolutely not. I've seen worse MCU movies. But it wasn't good either. It was kind of boring, which has been a calling card of the MCU through the end of Phase 3 into Phase 4 so far. There just isn't a lot of quality coming out with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Is that because there's so many properties being led by women? I don't know. I think it has to do, I just have a hunch, that there's too much creative control being given to the producers and directors of the movies and TV shows, and they're taking them in directions that fans of the MCU particularly don't like and don't find interesting. And I think that's where the real issue was coming in with the MCU, but we're not allowed apparently to criticize or even say that Captain Marvel isn't a good movie by MCU standards, which David Scott Jaffe freely admits and will admit again. That's the weirdest thing about this Twitter rant, is he kind of contradicts himself so many times, but he was not done. He had more to say about this thing. They hate Black Widow, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, and Captain Marvel, aka strong women who don't pine for male approval. They love Scarlet Witch, a woman who literally destroys the universe because she can't have the man she loves. See the pattern? It's misogyny, and it's gross. Who hates Black Widow? I thought everyone liked Black Widow. That's one of the best characters in the MCU, obviously, until they killed her off. The big problem with Black Widow is they made the Black Widow movie after she was dead already. Like, what the hell was that about? And what's he talking about Miss Marvel for? Every person I've talked to that watched the show liked it. It's because it was made for like a kid's audience. It wasn't made for the normal MCU viewing audience itself. So you got like half the viewership, but the viewership, as far as I could tell, that watched Miss Marvel tended to like it quite a bit. As far as She-Hulk goes, doesn't appear a lot of people like She-Hulk. I'll give you that one. And not many people like Captain Marvel. But as far as the male approval thing, I haven't been watching She-Hulk. I have not been watching She-Hulk because I am no longer going to watch stuff I'm not interested in. But isn't she out there like pining for some dude's approval? Isn't that like one of the main themes, at least one of the episodes of She-Hulk? Get your story straight, David Scott Jaffe, you jackass. What about all the women that don't like Captain Marvel, the movie? What about all the women that don't like She-Hulk? Are they misogynists too? What are they, self-loathing misogynists that only want to work for the patriarchy? Like, why don't we just take the agency away from everybody, and everyone that disagrees with me is just a heinous person and I'm going to call them mean names? That's what these people are down to. It's just petty name calling at this point, and it's absolute bullshit and easily disprovable, which someone does. And we get to see David Scott Jaffe backtrack a little bit and then double down again on his fallacy. The responder says, yet somehow they love Yelena, Shuri, Kate, Jessica Jones, Okoye, Katie Ched, Valkyrie, Nebula, and Gamora. Or take it out of the MCU and keep it current. Kim Wexler, Ahsoka, Kimiko, Max and Rue. Those so-called racist misogynists really need to step up their game. This is what this guy said. Sure, because nothing about those stories has anything to do with them being women. They simply are women. But have a geek story be a geek story. That is also speaks to from the female experience, and the sky is falling on these people because it makes them terribly uncomfortable. Perhaps it makes them terribly bored. They came to the dance for a superhero story, not a slice of life, what it's like to be a woman in modern times. Nobody goes to the MCU expecting to see Sex in the City. If you do that, yes, you're gonna throw off the audience just a little bit. What about all the hate for Thor, by the way? There's not a bigger travesty in the MCU right now than what they've done to Thor in Thor Ragnarok and in Endgame, and everyone hated Thor Love and Thunder. The one thing I'm told by Thor fans that they liked was Jane Foster in that movie, and they threw Valkyrie to the side anyway. So are they misogynist for hating Thor? Perhaps they're racist for hating Thor. That makes no sense whatsoever. Perhaps the MCU is in a dry spell right now. There just isn't a lot of quality associated with the MCU, specifically in Phase 4 itself. Other than the Spider-Man movie, which is absolutely amazing and had tons of fan service, there's not a lot of exciting stuff going on. Even Doctor Strange bottomed out almost immediately at the box office because people didn't like that movie either, because it had a weird story. And one of the big complaints about people that didn't like that Doctor Strange movie was the way that they messed up Wanda. The character apparently isn't female or doesn't act like a woman, so that's the only reason you like her, according to David Jaffe. Like, what a dumbass. There's so many holes to poke through in all of his stupid statements. This dude just wants a few more minutes of fame and infamy on social media by going out there and white knighting and just spewing off the mouth and saying stupid stuff like Gamora never had a female story. The weird sexual tension between her and Star-Lord I thought was great in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. How is being attracted to a moron and not wanting him to know it not a female story? That's the story of my wife's life. Apparently, if your stories don't sit around periods and tampons, you're not talking about the female experience in David Scott Jaffe's opinion. But like I said, there are plenty of female viewers of this channel and that I have seen out on the interwebs that don't like any of these movies either. It's not because they're led by women. It's because... I said it, folks. That's what's destroying the MCU. But this dumbass was not over. He did have to conclude his latest bout with infamy on the interwebs. Last thing, do they have points that some of the stories are not fantastic? 100%. But that's almost any movie, and that's fine. But it's the viciousness and consistency with which they beat on the not perfect women films that comes off as creepy and worrisome. Why is this guy so worried about what other people are doing on the interwebs? Is he the fucking internet hall monitor now? Are we not allowed to go out there and criticize bad movies? Movies that he just admitted had major flaws in them because it might upset somebody because it's a female-led movie. You have to like it no matter what. That's not the world I live in. That's not the world anyone lives in unless you put yourself in that world. I'm a free person. Everybody on the internet is free to have opinions. If you like the MCU, Phase 4, you like She-Hulk, you like Ms. Marvel, and you like these programs, continue watching them, support them, make them a big success. Going out there and trashing other people and calling them vile names is not supporting the programs. It's just highlighting why so many people are being put off by entertainment in Hollywood right now. In video games, I'm sure he's noticed there's a lot of games tanking right now because of bad production value and bad creative direction in the video game industry. It's not a movie thing. It's not a streaming thing. It's not a TV thing. It's not a comic book thing. It's an all of this thing. It's being taken over by people that don't like the mediums. They don't like the characters. They don't like the stories. They like the platforms. They want to use the characters and platforms to get out their message. These are not new problems, folks. In fact, 2 years ago, almost to this day, I talked about this very thing here on the channel. If you haven't seen this, I talked about why modern entertainment across the board absolutely sucks right now. David Scott Jaffe and people of his ilk are a big reason for that. If you haven't seen the video, definitely check it out. If you're on a mobile device, there's a link in the video description.